Simulation will never replace real-world racing, and I don't want it to.
Full Send Sims provides custom-built, top-notch simulators from whatever your budget is. We want to find the best fit for you.
We build rigs for pro drivers where we go and measure their cars, every measurement one-to-one down to the millimeter. You can drive these sims and certify basically to race a car in the real world. Matter of fact, this weekend we have 2 guys that work with FSS that have strictly been sim racing for the last 5 years.
Absolutely did not think a year ago I'd be driving a race car this weekend. However, getting into the simulator, I think it really helped me get on the track and stay competitive.
I've been a sim racing instructor for about 2 years now. The benefit of working with me as a race coach, I'll get you to be a better driver, a lot faster, with a lot less mistakes than you could doing it on your own.
We take the sim building and the sim training as serious as possible. It's not a video game, it's a training tool.
Full Send Sims will offer fully custom-built rigs and delivered and installed into your own home and constant online service. What we offer is world-class, top-notch racing built by a community of racers who enjoy passionate, clean racing.
North America's greatest racetracks aren't all confined to the United States. Just north of Lake Ontario in America's Hat is Bowmanville, Ontario, home to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Affectionately known as Mosport, this 10-turn flowing circuit is one of the few that remains basically unchanged from its original layout, and the challenges remain just as fierce. Tonight is round 2 of the Full Send Sims SMX Series, with 25 drivers going for glory in 2 20-minute races to be the best in Bowmanville. Hi everybody, and welcome to Full Send Sims and Sim TV. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by DJ Clark, filling in for Greg Creamer, who'll be out for a couple of weeks. DJ, welcome aboard. This is fun. Mosport, Spec MX-5s. This is going to be a blast heading up this back straightaway at 130 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic, Kyle. This CTMP circuit is absolutely old school in the flow, in the rhythm, in the way that it plays out. It's going to suit these MX-5s incredibly well from the run through the first corner down into Clayton and Quebec. It's a very rhythm-type section, and then there we see that elevation, and that is what makes that hairpin Moss Corner so very difficult.
Yeah, in many ways, you can consider it 3 corners, 5A, 5B, and 5C. Moss Corner, named after the famous Sterling Moss. Up the back straightaway, 5, 6, and 7, you can count them corners, but then you get to turn 8. That's where the fun really starts. That's a great passing opportunity, an overtaking zone, but a trouble spot as well as the track pinch points. Then 9 and 10, that famous left-right combination that sets you up for that last lap, last corner pass. It can get you into trouble, especially in the fierce confines of just a 20-minute race. So qualifying is very important. That's what's happening on the racetrack right now, DJ. Weather is a little bit hazy out there, 92% humidity, but relatively cool temps, 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 72 on the racetrack. So it's going to be nice, cool temps for these drivers to get maximum power out of these cars.
Yeah, the maximum power is certainly going to be there. I am going to be a little bit worried about that tire warm-up phase. We may need to wait a lap, maybe even a lap and a half to 2 laps to really see these tires come up to temperature and get the full grip on this circuit. But it looks like here the drivers are starting to come to grips with everything now. Hibbett, Soto, Reciputo leading the way.
Yeah, and these are familiar names to see up front. I think one name that we're missing up here that we would expect to see is Morgan Burkhardt, who again just announced a multi-year deal with an IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge team. He's been a 3-time champion in the series in the past. He had a really rough go of things at Sebring, getting caught up in a last lap collision in race 1 and then a first turn collision in race number 2. He is absent so far here this week. That is opportunity for Camden Hibbett, another multi-time champion, to take advantage of that. But so too for Joshua Soto, who'd love to come out on top of champion this time around, or Nicholas Rice-Budo in the 0-3. He's again a driver that's been a perennial top 5 favorite, and without Morgan Burkhardt here, this is points collecting night for these guys.
Yeah, and I think one of the drivers that I'm particularly watching out for is that fifth place driver at the moment, Benjamin, or Beans, as we like to call him, Forster. Very, very quick, actually leads the championship here at this point in the reckoning. Forster's going to be a force to be reckoned with very quick. There's a view of his camera right there, as you can see him working down that back straightaway. Driver in his rear view mirror doing a little bit of weaving. That's the 132 there, just trying to get those tires, 123, it's James Newell, just trying to get those tires up to temperature like we talked about.
Yeah, I love that Beans gives us the onboard with the pedal cam there, watching all three feet, or all three pedals at work with the 2 feet. You'll get to see the heel toe and everything. So as he comes out of turn number 10, you'll watch him go up a gear here in just a moment. Actually, he's down a gear. He might be just killing some time off into turn 1. Almost no brake. That's how fast this racetrack is. We haven't seen him shift yet. He's keeping this thing in top gear.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you can do around this circuit. Now, that is gutsy. Coming down through Clayton, scratching his nose and one hand on the wheel. That's a very difficult corner. Even when you get up to some of the higher downforce machines like an IndyCar or a prototype that we've seen around CTMP, coming down through that corner, the car unloads a little bit. You get a little bit loose in the tires. You get a light in the tires, and it can be very tricky. If you get just fractionally offline, you're out into the grass.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that Greg will talk about all the time, is that downforce kind of gives you what he calls false grip. The faster you go, the more you have. In a car like this, you don't have really any downforce, so we're completely relying on mechanical grip and how you balance the car. A little bit of shenanigans happening here as drivers kind of warm up tires and get ready. I wanted to also point out that he's got some biometrics on the screen here. His peak and current beats per minute, his heart rate, and we saw that go up into the 150s at Sebring. And I also think that Camden Hibbett has done something similar. So he's got 97 BPM right now, leading the way in the pack.
Well, and that tells me that Camden is right in that zone. So often in other sports, you hear folks talk about being in the mental zone, whether it's baseball or soccer or football or whatever it is. But the lower the heart rate is here when you're a driver locked into the car, that means you're just dialed in. Heart rate starting to rise a little bit, maybe officially starting a qualifying lap here. Camden may be feeling a little bit of the nerves, but the lower that BPM is, the better he's going to feel. Watch it spike here a little bit. Yep, there it goes, right as he comes through that field of cars.
Yeah, cars on the left and the right out of the way in the grass in the pit lane. But it's interesting how quickly it picked up about 10 BPM just as he started that qualifying effort. He's got Joshua Soto chasing him as well, so out the mirror and the windshield. But it just picks up that intensity just a little bit. Now, he's 2/10 clear of Soto, but Soto's right behind him in the slipstream, and that's a topic we'll be covering and recovering all night long, especially heading onto this back straightaway. I think slipstream is king here tonight, especially on that white flag lap.
Yes, it very much is going to be the king. It's going to be the way to get around. It's going to be the way to make a pass. But the problem is here, Kyle, when you come down into the S's, that right-hander at the end of the Mario Andretti straightaway, it's not the easiest passing zone. You can take that with a little bit of a feather on the throttle. It's not down until you get into the left-hander that you kind of have to start applying the brakes. So you've got to be very, very brave in sending it around the outside, or you've got to have a lot of faith in the driver to your outside if you try to go up the middle like that.
Yeah, saw Forster getting out of the way, and Soto had to take a slightly compromised line here. And this is that 9-10 setup we were talking about, where you swing back to the left to arc into the final corner, but that opens the door on that final lap. Think back to the NASCAR Truck Series races here, where everybody always likes to jam that nose in there. It's opportunity that you feel like you need to take, but it will draw a penalty if you create contact like that, if you don't have sufficient overlap. So establishing yourself and staying there, putting yourself in position is great. Although if there's two cars side by side into the last corner, I want to be third. I want to take both of those spots.
Yeah, positioning is going to be the name of the game here, I think. It's going to be very similar to frankly, your analogy, like a trucks race, like a NASCAR race in general. And when we come into that penultimate or that last lap, that white flag lap, we're going to have to see these drivers really think about what position they want to be in to be able to maximize that slipstream and get the move to take the checkered flag.
That trio heads up the back straightaway once again. Trace Hance in the number 53, kind of on his own. He's had another very strong qualifying effort. Showed great pace back at Sebring a couple of weeks ago. And as we come into this round, Beans Forster leads the standings. Nicholas Rice-Puto, Wanshi Lin is third by virtue of some of those strong runs he had at Sebring. Where is Wanshi? Is he on this list? Might be another driver that's out this week. No,
yeah, I don't see Wanshi on the entry list here at this point.
Yeah, we're down a couple from those that were up at the front at Sebring. And Skip Brock Jr., who managed to grab fourth in the standings, is only down in 12th, so he won't be stoked about this qualifying effort. He's got some work to do. And same with Court Schmidt. 9 laps on the board and about half a second off the pace. Joshua Soto to the top in the late going here.
And only by about 0.02 of a second. That's impressive from Soto, and with only a minute left to go, again, positioning coming in. Some of these drivers may be leading the pack here, not able to take full advantage of the slipstream around this Canadian circuit, and so they may find themselves in a little bit of a compromised position with not enough time left to really get that maximal lap down on the board.
Yeah, they don't have enough time to complete another lap because with the heat format style, you need the full lap time worth of time left to complete your mission. So that was going to be it for these front runners. And not only did Soto pip Camden Hibbett, but Beans Forster did as well. So it knocks Hibbett all the way back to row number 2 alongside Nicholas Rice-Puto. So some work for him to pass some cars. He thought he might have pole, but his heart rate is dropping as he cools down from his effort. Murphy Nichols is back. Good to see him back here in this series. And then number 55 that he's run for a long time. New livery on board the car this season.
Yeah, I like that livery. I like the, is that a dog or a wolf? I can't exactly tell, but whatever it is, it looks aggressive. It looks mean here, and I love seeing that. Nichols currently in 10th as time runs out on the board.
It sure does. Kicks everybody off the racetrack, and we're going to go green here in just a moment's time. But before we do that, we'd like to take a moment and thank the partners and people that make it all possible. Of course, Court Schmidt and Full Send Sims. Of course, they build custom simulators for any activation you could possibly think of. They can match any kind of experience that you're looking for. Turnkey simulators for any driver, in replicating any sort of car that you could possibly imagine. 3P Logistics, trackside support, and Final Turn Motorsports have been with us since the opening seasons of this championship. Wine Country Motorsports, of course, they pick up the phone when the online retailers won't. Race gear and equipment. Of course, FARA, they've expanded their racing championship not only to the southeast, but also up into the Midwest. They have an event here in Joliet coming up this summer. So FARA in big support of Full Send Sims and the SMX Series. So huge thanks to those partners. And the cars are on the grid here ready to take a lap. Although, do I see a pace car out here?
I do see a pace car.
Okay, so good. I was out of my camera shot. I was worried that we were going to have a standing start.
There it is.
It was hiding.
It's just trying to hide from you. That's
Yeah.
really what it is. Looks like we may have a couple of drivers, though. No, they're coming on in. We've still got a little bit of time left for them to come on in. I got a little notification and thought we were going to miss out on Joshua Soto and James Newell, but they've still got some time to grid up.
Yeah, have a look at the wind. 13 miles an hour out of the north. That'll give you a pretty sizable headwind and tailwind. So especially for Miata, where you're only working with about 160, 170 horsepower, that will make a difference. And the temperatures are roughly the same as they were in qualifying, so that shouldn't be too much of a factor. We're not anticipating any precipitation. We can't yet with this car, unfortunately, so maybe someday. But with that, let's get down to our starting lineup here and take the top 10, DJ, and I'll pass the rest off to you. Kicking things off with the front row, it's Joshua Soto in the number 77, and Beans Forster, your current championship leader, rolls off in second place. Then in third place, it's Camden Hibbett in the 132. Nicholas Rice-Puto starts fourth in the 03. Trace Hansen, Andrew Gilliland, the youngster, roll off fifth and sixth in the 53 and 91, respectively. Hayden Manis and Gianni Morrow start seventh and eighth in the 65 and 18. Rounding out your top 10, Dylan Lee in the number 2. Strong run at Sebring. Murphy Nichols joins us again for the championship, rolls off 10th, the number 55.
As we move back into 11th position, it's going to be James Newell and then Skip Brock Jr. to his outside in 12th place. Deacon Greenfield lines up 13th with Stephen Bluntland to his outside in 14th. Moving back, it's Elliot Burton and Joshua Clatterbeck in 16th position. 17th will be Andrew Wozencroft with Bob Mueller Jr. in 18th. Moving back into 19th as we continue to go through this field, it is Jim Friedhofer, then Andrew Guerra. In 20th, 21st is Seth Spolman, and then Wayne Buttermore in 22nd position.
One more row, Les Chachik and Court Schmidt, and then Zach Ehrlich was here. I don't think he took the grid, so he could be starting from the pits, and we'll see how that transpires here in just a moment's time. But warming up the tires, warming up the brakes, it's go time immediately. The first two corners, really all of the first entire sector of this racetrack is such high commitment. And how many times have we seen a race go green at Mosport and you see cars off at turn 2?
It is as guaranteed as the sun coming up in the east in the morning. It happens so often you can almost set your clock by it. You've just got to be careful. It's part of the camber, it's part of the elevation change through that corner of Clayton. And on this first lap, drivers just have to really focus in. If you are on that outside line, or what will be the outside line, that's the inside for turn 1, those odd-numbered positions, you've got to be very, very careful. Feather the throttle. Don't be afraid to apply a little brake. Get that nose to dip down and grip up on those front tires. Do everything you can, because if you get that momentum running to the outside, it's game over.
Cars are packed up and paired up, and we're 24 cars, 24 deep in the second round of the Full Send Sims SMX Series for 2025 Season 1. There's hardware prizes on tap at the end of the season, and trophies on the horizon as well. Who's got it here at Mosport? CTMP, we're green in the Full Send Sims SMX Series. Joshua Soto brings him down under the flag stand, and we're all going to be 3 wide. Hibbett takes a look to the inside, and he sticks the nose in, can't commit to it though. Forster to the outside with Dylan Lee in the middle. That's a tight squeeze out of turn 1.
And there you see that momentum carrying cars up to the outside as here we dive down into Clayton. Soto continues to lead. As there, we've already got one off into the grass.
That's James Newell. He's way off. Can he keep it out of the tires? He does. And the leader's off. Soto's off course. We're going to be 3, almost 4 wide into turn 3.
And this is again coming through Quebec right now. Car almost off in the background, 3 wide still in the middle of the pack as it looks like Forster has been able to hold on to it. Hibbett's going to keep in close behind. Soto and Hans trying to be able to keep this side by side. Folks, you've got to sort this out. You can't go too wide through Moss.
Oh, this is going to be really dicey stuff on the opening lap here. Look at this, still 3 abreast back there. They're making it work. These Miatas aren't that big. Greenfield takes a pounding of the curb on the inside as they accelerate up the backstretch. Now the chess match begins.
And I think that was Gilliland and Manis that we saw making a little bit of contact coming out of the hairpin. But as you said, the chess match now begins. How do you want to position yourself? Rest assured, these drivers are counting back from that 20-minute point to be able to get things figured out as we take a look on board with your leader, Beans Forster.
132 BPM peak. He's at 130 right now with Camden Hibbett hot on his heels. And that qualifying effort where Soto stole the pole away quickly was erased with that slip off course at turn number 3. Just like that, lap 1's complete. That's how fast they go here, about 1 minute and 20-something seconds, minute 36 seconds.
Yeah, and we talked about the momentum of these cars, that they really are momentum cars. There's not a lot of that fake grip, that downforce that we talked about. Nicholas Rice-Puto, a little bit of side-by-side farther back through the field, but you've got to carry as much minimum speed through the corner as you can. That's why we're seeing drivers kicking out dirt on the exit of White's.
Yeah, Rice-Puto was 4th at the beginning of this race and dropped to 10th after a slip up on the opening lap. I think Soto and Hibbett, they're side by side. That might let Forster build a slight gap here. And Trace Hance, he's P4. How about Andrew Gilliland, 6th up to 5th and looking for 4th?
Yeah, he's trying to push his nose forward here. Hance now going to have a little bit of think about trying to make this through the corner as he tries to get down to the inside there of Gilliland. Little bit of side-by-side. My goodness, put a piece of paper between them. That's all that was left.
Yeah, if there was a piece of paper, it would have a tear in it, I think. I think they did kind of slide across each other's bumpers there, but they thankfully didn't hook. Hayden Manis is chasing both of them up the backstretch. And he might have an opportunity to push one of them or try to sneak to the inside of Hansen. He will do the latter.
He's going to go to the inside here at this point. This will be advantageous for the first corner, but again, the switchbacks will come around the 65 with a big dart into the corner. Manis has got that position away, and it looks like it's a world of trouble here for Trace Hance. Definitely losing positions there and might have an attack coming from behind from Dylan Lee and those behind.
Yeah, a couple cars running off in the background as well. Some damage on the nose of the 03 that I didn't notice before as well. But you were pointing out the pressure that Hans was feeling. Once the door got cracked open by Andrew Gilliland, it just opens the door for everybody else. So then it was Hayden Manis, and then now it's Dylan Lee and Skip Brock, and there's trouble in the background, and Galletta's in trouble in a big way.
Oh, and that's heavy damage on the right side of that Miata. Very interested to see the replay here. I wonder, this is a situation, you see the tail end start to lose a little bit up and over those curbs, starts to break away, and then on the throttle on the curbs and just spat him out to the right-hand side of the track. That's a little surprising.
Yeah, just dropped the left side tire in the dirt, and then just, gosh, that's a big hit. He's actually lucky he didn't get caught up again, but that will likely be the end of his night. Andrew Wozencroft is also off course. I don't see as much damage to that car, but 2 cars out in the early stages of this one as we head back to the back straightaway, and things are looking more orderly this time by.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more single file. Beans Forster, or Camden Hibbett, excuse me, thinking about a little bit of a push there at that point to the back of Forster. Forster's going to keep it together, though. Maybe a little bit of a bump draft, maybe a little bit of a how you doing, just to see if he can unsettle Forster, but it doesn't look like Beans has taken the bait.
I love the way that you can see him feeling the grip in the steering, just kind of chasing the nose as the tires chatter across the surface. Hey, have a look at the peak BPM. Wasn't it in the 130s before? It's 146 now, so he's been up in the heart rate a little. And Camden Hibbett, he is as cool as a cucumber in comparison, under 100, while in hot pursuit of that race leader.
And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. The lower that BPM, the more in the zone Hibbett is. Another driver spun off in the background. That's Elliott Burton. Looks like a little bit of damage on the front, maybe on the right front of that number 6.
Yeah, this is turn 1 again. I wonder if it's the same scenario. We've seen drivers sort of abusing the exit track limits. Same exact thing. Catches the grass and spins back across in front of a couple of drivers. Bob Moeller Jr. got a face full of race car there and somehow dodged it. Watch this.
Yeah, check on board here. You can see the car absolutely spinning. Ooh, that's full-on coal trickle right there.
Yeah, that was a wake-up moment on a Tuesday night. So he'll live to tell the tale, and so will Elliott Burton, but down the order a little ways. So the top 3 have sort of broken away. Andrew Gilliland is leading the charge with this second group, and Hayden Manis seems to have committed to just pushing Gilliland, and last time by, they were actually a little quicker than the race leaders by about 0.3 of a second.
Well, and that's the kind of mentality you want to have if you've got that visible gap between you and some cars in front of you. You want to play nice with the drivers around you. So oftentimes when we're talking about open wheel cars on this circuit, we see a lot of the leapfrog where you want to let the driver pass you and then kind of play with each other to push your way up through the order. But a push like that, a bump draft like that, absolutely pixel perfect what you need to do to catch this leading pack.
And it's actually put Gilliland right back in contention with these front 3, so that was smart thinking. Did you see Camden Hibbett just hook the grass on the entry to turn 2? He had the right sides in the dirt, and he still turned in. He had the loaded tires in the grass and somehow didn't throw it into the fence. That's impressive driving, using all the road plus a little bit.
Yeah, that's somebody who's got a little bit of dirt track experience. Beans Forster also getting a little bit of dirt track experience off into the outside coming through Quebec. Going to be able to catch the car and get it back together, but there you can see Camden Hibbett right back on the back of that white and black number 23.
Look at how things accordion together. Gilliland takes the opportunity to close up. A little bit aggressive on corner entry. It'll cost him on exit, and Manis knows that, gives him a shot. But just that little charge mid-corner has put them back 5 or 6 car lengths on exit.
And that's the thing about Moss Corner, Kyle, is really and truly when you're down into that corner, if you get just a fraction too aggressive on turn-in and don't roll that speed well through the corner and through the exit of it, you're going to be hurting yourself all the way down this back straightaway. As we've got a little bit side-by-side here coming down into the S's.
Yeah, that created a bottleneck when the 91 slowed up on the exit of Moss. Manis went to the right side to try to overtake, and then that kind of left everyone else with an opportunity to strike. So it just got everyone disorganized. A couple cars running wide on the exit. But that's not what you need. I mean, we saw a lap ago the opposite was true, where everyone was working together and they made up ground. You don't necessarily want to be fighting each other if you want that opportunity to close up. Here comes Hibbett to the outside of Forster for the race lead.
It's going to poke back into line there. looking for the crossover. That's what I was thinking he was going to maybe try to do. Not going to play out. And now that's going to be potentially good, potentially bad there for Hibbett. One, he showed his hand. He showed what he may want to do. But now Beans Forster is going to be constantly looking in that rearview mirror through that corner. But Hibbett's got another thing to worry about. That's Joshua Soto who's coming on.
Yeah, Soto's come out to play today, hasn't he? And is definitely one of the top 3 in this fight tonight. I mean, I thought that we might see a little bit more. Had we had Morgan Burkhardt in here, we could have a 4 or 5 car race, but I think it really seems squarely to be 3. Maybe throw Gilliland in there, but he's struggling to hang on. He is hanging on, but it's not easy, and he's having a lot of help from Hayden Manis from behind. Well, these front 2 have raced each other so much, so many times. They know everything, every little trick. And so, yeah, showing his hand is one thing, but 10 minutes down, there's still a lot of tricks these guys have up their sleeves to try to show the other what they haven't seen before.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of gamesmanship here, especially in a circuit like this where it is a little bit more difficult to pass. Speaking of trying to get past, though, we've got a side-by-side here. Stephen Blethen, this is back for 12th position, and he's going to try to hold that out the best he can, and they're still at it.
And here comes James Newell with an opportunity to steal one or both. He's going to lift early into turn 1. Throttle down, he might pickpocket both of them here going into turn 2.
He's got to run here. He's just got to pick a lane on where he'd want to go. Oh, nice move to come down to the inside. That was brilliant by Newell.
And actually the 50, Blethen charged in there to try to clear Bob Mueller. And he missed the turn-in point. There's a car off the road there. That's Yanni Morrow. And Morrow's out. So he must have had some contact or a spin or something. Let's see what happened to the 18. He was sort of on his own.
I wonder if he maybe just picked a little bit. Now there's a little bit of damage on the front of that Miata. I wonder if that could have just affected the suspension and we couldn't really tell and just not feeling it.
It looked like a fairly controlled stop. I thought he had maybe blown a motor or something, but either way, battle for the lead is on. Here comes Hibbett. This time, draws even with Forster.
All right, now comes the big brain moment. How are you going to be able to take this out? Forster's going to be able to get the advantage, but the track will switch back through the S's. Hibbett should have the advantage for the moment. Look at that in the background. That's Gilliland and Soto trying to be able to sort each other out. Gilliland with a sneak maneuver.
But watch Manis. He's going to have a big run on both of these guys now. Forster defended from Hibbett, but Hibbett sticks the nose up the inside for turn 1. What a move for Camden Hibbett. And now Gilliland slots into 3rd, Manis to 4th.
All right, I love those kind of maneuvers. You poke one way and dart the other. They're still going to stay side by side down through Clayton. Got to feather that throttle. If you are Hibbett, he's going to be able to keep it together. Meanwhile, back for 4th place, that's Madison Soto, and maybe even 3 wide.
Oh, that was an attempt by Skip Brock Jr. to take it 3 abreast, and Soto's out to the dirt. And here comes Dylan Lee in the 2. Everybody's in this mix now, so game on with 8 minutes to go. These guys feeling the pressure.
Yeah, they certainly have that message coming from their crew chief to hurry up and go. Ooh, little bit hot into the corner there for the 32 of Skip Brock Jr., but he's going to get it slowed down in time. Meanwhile, right behind them, Lee and Soto.
Missed a gear, Gillen missed a gear, and it's jammed everybody up 4 wide on the backstretch.
Oh my goodness, and there could be a little bit of a push to the inside there. That could be a good run if they're able to get up. But yeah, exactly as you said, Gilliland missing that gear absolutely puts everybody out of touch. And look at this, 1.5 seconds with Forster and Hibbett up into the lead. Lee the closest one. This could be all she wrote. It could be a two-way battle now.
And they're going to take that opportunity to battle side by side for the top spot now. Joshua Soto's had a horrendous lap going from 3rd down to 9th. And it's cleared out the ability for these two to battle. Hibbett takes the lead. Forster tries to cross him over. Big slip from Hibbett on the curbing, but Hibbett's got it.
Yeah, Hibbett's got it. I thought Forster was going to get that done, but didn't quite have the momentum to make it play. Now taking a little bit more of a narrow line down into turn 1, carrying a little bit more momentum as they go into Clayton. Going to take that poke to the outside. Not really going to get it there. He's going to stay on the tire tracks of Hibbett.
And he's got overlap now into turn 3 and sneaks up the inside. He's going to climb that curb and take the lead right back. Hibbett's going to try to do the same back to him. This is fantastic stuff for the lead.
Yeah, and I love that little smile there you saw at Beans Forrester. That's the thing. These guys want to be battling side by side. This is fun. This is what it's all about. Is Forrester going to keep his nose in there as they come up into Moss? Yes, he is. He may have an advantage here as he tries to feed Hibbett out. He's got it. No, Hibbett's got him back.
And here comes Dylan Lee from 9th to 3rd. And Riceputo, remember, he started 4th, got dropped back to 10th on the opening lap, and he has rejoined the party because that big shuffle a lap ago. So we have completely reshuffled the deck, pull out a new card. Let's see what the Magicians have in store for us in the last 6 minutes.
And there you see Riceputo not fully giving the bump up to Dylan Lee, but Trace Hance also holding on to the background. We could have a 5-way fight up for this lead. Forrester takes a little bit more of a narrow line down into the right-hander off the backstretch. Here comes a nice little battle farther back in the field. Skip Brock Jr., Joshua Soto, Murphy Nichols involved.
And these guys are all mad because they were all fighting up for 3rd, 4th spot a moment ago, and now they're all back here at 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. They would like to be higher up than this, and they're running out of time to get there. We did see how quickly Hibbett and Forster's lead dwindled when they were battling, so they're not out of it yet, but they have to get organized, and they are not right now.
No, they are not. They really need to sort this back up and together, and I think Forrester recognized that they lost all of that leading advantage over Dylan Lee and Nicholas Riceputo, and so he is not making an attack here as we get on this lap with 5 minutes left to go.
Oh, Forrester had a big lateral slide there, trying to counter it with some more throttle, some right boot, and Dylan Lee firmly in this battle.
As they come into Moss again, all about execution off the corner. It looked like Dylan lost maybe a fraction of acceleration coming through that kink, but he's also got to worry about Riceputo, who wants to move now.
Yeah, Riceputo saw that, and you actually heard a little bit of a misshift there. He didn't completely miss the gear. I think that's what happened to Gilliland a couple of laps ago, is when he left the corner, he got a shot in the rear bumper right as he was going to shift. And so that'll basically shock the driveline, won't let the gear go in, and that can really throw you off. I think it did the same for the 2 of Dylan Lee, and Trace Hance is back to 4th. And Riceputo, I think, is now the biggest threat for these front 2.
I think you're probably right about that, but with 4 minutes left to go on the clock, lap times here at about 1:30, he's running out of opportunities, and he runs wide like that through whites. That may cut down those chances as this race winds to a close.
Got to watch out for your incidents as well. Keep an eye on that. Don't let that count climb too high. You're only running 13 laps here. You have a higher limit than that, but got to keep an eye on it. Here's Manis and Soto. This is for 6th.
Soto going to take a look down into the inside here of Quebec. That's a little bit gutsy. He's going to drift out, lose a little bit of grip, understeer, but well held, and great appreciation of that understeer by Hayden Manis to avoid an incident.
Yeah, this whole racetrack, an entire lap around here, and the racing involved here is all about commitment. Committing to throttle, committing to your corner entry, committing to your pass. If you back out, you're going to lose it and maybe 3 or 4 more spots. It's so much momentum based. Even here at a prototype, it's a momentum racetrack, let alone in a car with only 160 horsepower. So you've got to commit to everything. And sometimes that overcommitment can get you in trouble and turn you upside down. But until you do, you have to keep committing.
Exactly. Speaking of committing, it looks like Beans Forrester there with a little bit of a commitment to a bump going down the back straightaway, giving a shot to Camden Hibbett, maybe just trying to hurry him up a little bit and give them that breathing room over Nicholas Riceputo. Looks like Dylan Lee and Trey Hance, Joshua Soto kind of all trading there in the background. They're going to come out of the final corner. I believe this is going to be 2 laps to go for your leaders.
Yeah, will be 2 to go. And notice that heart rate is peak BPM 154. That's basically what I have in a full run. So, this is a workout for Beans right now, 140. And he's been like this for 20 minutes nearly.
Yeah, anybody that tells you racing is not a sport, take a look at the heart rate and then consider when you're doing this in real life, the G-forces that are going through your body at the same time. This is a full body and full mind workout. Even on the sim like this, you're using a lot of muscles, you're using a lot of brain powder, and your heart rate is through the roof.
Yeah, it's so much fun to watch these guys go at it and use their sims as a training tool. So many of these drivers have real-world experience. Camden Hibbett was just at the Racing Prodigy program a couple of days ago. I think won a couple of races there. Was recently competing in the SCCA as well. So just these drivers are all using. Oh, trouble for Dylan Lee down at Moss Corner.
That's a little bit surprising. Lee had been running very, very well. Let's take a look back here at the replay, lining up into the corner. Kept everything together through that little patch of asphalt, comes up and over the corner, just too much speed. Simple as that. Too much speed, the rear end broke away.
It sure did, and while we were watching that, battle for the lead is back on. Coming to the white flag this time, Forster takes the lead from Hibbett, and Rice Pudo is watching, licking his lips from behind. There's the dorsal fin in the Atlantic Ocean right now, isn't it?
Yes, there is. Cue the John Williams here at this point as they come through the final corner. Oh, that's the 65 off and around. That's Hayden Manis, another one of the drivers we've been keeping our eye on.
Yeah, there's more to that. We'll watch the replay post-race here because we've got a lead battle to follow here. You're right, white flag, last lap, Forster, Hibbett, Rice Pudo, game on.
Game on indeed. Now my question is for Beans Forster, if he maybe made this move a little bit too early. Remember we talked about positioning and where he wants to be on that final lap. He may be in a position where he's compromised coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway to the checker.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that, but if it was a two-car race, I definitely agree. Now that it's a three-car race, you know, Hibbett's also got to deal with Rice Pudo, who's now to his outside and looks like he might complete this pass for second.
He has completed that pass for second as they get into the braking zone for Moss Corner. That's not going to diminish there, though, as it looks like Hibbett's trying to take a little bit of an eye ahead. It's not going to play. Good run off the corner for Beans Forster. Could that be enough to keep it at bay?
Yeah, watch the heart rate climb on Hibbett now. And I'll do the same on my other monitor with Beans Forster, but it is the final drag race down the back straightaway. Camden Hibbett, Nicholas Rice Pudo chasing Beans Forster. The battle for second is on. Will the battle for the lead stay on here into the last few corners?
Maybe a little bit of a shot in the back there for Rice Pudo. Here comes Hibbett trying to go around the outside.
And he's going to throw it down there deep into turn number 8, into turn 9, banging fenders. Camden Hibbett roars by Beans Forster. Peak heart rate for Beans, but he's going to drop to third in the final moments. Hibbett steals it. Rice Pudo and Forster drag race to the stripe. Who gets there first? That was a near tie for P2. Rice Pudo, I think, got it by 14 one-thousandths of a second. Then it's Forster, Hans, Soto, Gilliland, your top 6.
Oh my goodness gracious. And Kyle, I was proved wrong there or proved right what I was talking about in positioning yourself going down that back straightaway. Forster just not in a good position. That's what lost him the race, is getting that run. But check this out, little bit of banging doors. That's what really sealed the deal there for Forster. That little bit of contact forcing him offline. He had to lift to be able to make the corner for whites. And despite going off onto the grass, Nicholas Rice Pudo able to take that by the merest of margins.
Yeah, that was a huge commitment by Hibbett there in those final moments to steal that spot. I want to go back and look at a couple of things before we get too deep into the between race coverage here for the next 5 minutes. But let's go back and have a look at the Hayden Manis collision, because there was a couple cars involved in this here, DJ. Let's have a look and see what we see.
That's Manis there in the middle of everything. They're going to come down into that first corner. Oh, that's the 32 in front of him of Skip Brock Jr. That looks like a miscommunication there, Kyle. I think Skip may have lifted coming into the right-hander, and Manis just didn't expect it and kind of sped into the back of him.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and just not intentional, just kind of boxed in there. Then Murphy Nichols did a nice job. He had to go off course to avoid this, but look at his quick thinking right here. Woo, dodged one, dodged the other, and had to go for the grass, but that was quick thinking, nice driving.
Yeah, that really and truly is. It kind of defies A.J. Foyt's law of incident avoidance, which is aim for the car where it is. He had to get out of the way of the cars.
And going back to Camden Hibbett, just this huge send around the outside, and we talk about commitment. That's what you have to do. You have to drive in there, foot to the floor. A little bit of contact there puts the 30 or the 23 into the marbles, and that's what compromises Beans for that last corner. But just the amount of commitment required to drive up the outside like this. I mean, just watch this and just watch the gearing here. Just a little lift. Stays in fifth. Just has to commit.
Yeah, downshifts in order to get that car to rotate for the left-hander of White's and then able to get it together. That is a driver that has full faith in the machinery that he is in. That is absolutely brilliant stuff from Camden Hibbett.
Wow, that was great stuff. And what did we learn? I think we learned that that this is an easy place to get yourself into trouble because of that commitment. We saw a lot of early race problems as well. So we're going to restart this next race with the finishing order of the first race. But guys like Joshua Soto, they made a mistake mid-race, ended up top 5, but there was race-winning speed in that 77. He'll want to avoid the trouble there, and Rice Sputo missed out on the win. But think if had he not gotten knocked all the way back to 10th, how much more time he could have spent up front.
Exactly. Resputo's the one that I'm really going to be watching out for in this race. For Soto and some of those that definitely had the speed but found themselves a little bit unfortunate, I would be a little bit careful if I were them to overcommit in the early stages of this race. In a two-stage race situation such as this, it can be very easy to go, I've got speed, I'm going to go full send. And I think the strategy here for the likes of Soto, for the likes of Gilliland, Murphy Nichols, James Newell, Dylan Lee, those that we really saw have some speed, is kind of hold back a little bit, actually. It's counterintuitive, but let the chaos unfold around you. Pick up the pieces. You should find yourself in a pretty good spot come the last 5 minutes.
That's an interesting thing. You mentioned hold back. And the previous iteration of this championship that is still running on Monday nights, by the way, the full Send Sim Spec Miata series with the edited setup to make these cars run more like Spec Miatas. When we had those cars, they didn't really draft all that well. So when we came to a place like Mosport, leading into the last couple of corners wasn't that bad of a place to be. But now it seems like there's a lot more volatility. The cars are lighter. They're more nimble. You can be more aggressive with them. So I think this is more classic Spec Miata racing where you can really wait and plan your maneuvers. But that can also get you in trouble because everyone's anticipating. And so, for a guy like Beans Forster, he can anticipate Camden going to the outside, but if he goes to cover that, then Camden will just dart to the inside. It gets a lot harder to cover when you're driving so defensively. It wasn't something that you had to do previously, but with this version of this car, I think you do.
I think you do as well, and my biggest thing for these drivers is don't worry about driving defensively. Just drive heads up. Get yourself out of position to be in an incident in the first couple of corners, on the first couple of laps. Set yourself in, settle into the race, and then when you get to the last 5 minutes, hopefully at that point, if you've done everything right, you're in a position to be able to be aggressive with your attacks. That's when you start to push.
So looking again at our track map here, turn 1 was a big trouble spot. We saw a lot of drivers go off to the right after dropping a tire in the dirt. We saw turn 5 be a trouble spot. And the other corner that we saw a couple cars turned around in is turn 3. And this one's, sort of interesting because it's pretty flat and off camber in comparison to the rest of the turns. So it's not a corner that you'd necessarily highlight as being all that challenging, but it's actually pretty different than the rest of the corners. And it's usually just one that you don't highlight that much. So it's just easy to get lost over there and understeer off. It's just because you're not highlighting it as a danger point, it often is the most dangerous of them all.
It's a very good point, Kyle. This is a circuit that you kind of mentioned it at the beginning of the broadcast. The first half of this track, you've got to be up on the wheel the entire time, as you said. From turn 1 down through Clayton into Quebec into Moss, it flows together. You have a little bit of time to breathe in between to kind of set yourself up a little bit, but it is full commitment through there. And if you find yourself just a little bit offline, you may not be in the outside of the grass like you are coming through Clayton, but you're definitely going to find yourself in a compromised position.
Well, cars are gridding here for race number 2, and they're gridding by how they finished. Of course, we didn't get a long opportunity to look at the race results from race 1. So there's your finishing order, now your starting positions. Andrew Gilliland, up into third, as high as third last race, showed a lot of pace, but that one missed shift put him way back. What does he have for us in race 2? Then Murphy Nichols kind of stole a few positions right at the end and ended up 7th. We'll see what he's got to climb forward a little higher.
Yeah, those two cars, and just for our convenience, they're both similarly liveried, red, white, and black. Those are going to be two to watch out for. I think Gilliland is going to be kicking himself because of that little incident. We saw what he had. Another one to watch out for here is James Newell, this 123. You're not going to miss that car in all that Barbie livery. Very, very distinctive. Love it, by the way. He's one to keep an eye for. We saw him up in that lead group. Cards didn't exactly fall his way, but he may have a little bit more speed to take out of this.
A couple others to put a highlight on. Deacon Greenfield didn't have the best race number 1, but he always graces us with his presence on the driver cam, so we'll give him some love. He'll be starting in 20th spot, and nearby him is Andrew Wozencroft, who was out pretty early in race number 1. There he is in the red and yellow number 80. And of course, Court Schmidt from Full Send Sims climbed his way up from last up to 16th place. There he is with his mighty old rig. He's got the same keyboard I do for my Sim PC. The same keyboard everybody has for their Sim PC.
I have a different one, but okay.
A different wireless one?
Yeah, I do actually.
Gosh, get with the program.
I broke the mold. What can I say?
That's what DJ does, breaks the mold.
Yeah.
Well, the field being paced by the 2024 make model. I always love making that joke. You know the new BMW M2 is a pace car now?
Yes, I did actually read that. When we first saw the pace car here, I was wondering if we were going to get that M2, but this is the iRacing sedan,
yes,
as it is called.
The Dixon Ticonderoga. I can't remember if there ever was a time, but it'd be really nice to be able to paint the pace car.
I don't think you've ever been able to.
I know why they don't, but they don't let you, but it'd be really cool if you could.
It would be very cool. I don't know. I'll talk to my iRacing people, see if we can get something.
My iRacing people, he says. All right. So 20 minutes go up on the board. Camden Hibbett trying to collect more points and climb up onto the order because he missed out last week at Sebring. Morgan Burkhardt didn't have a very good round. Hibbett was absent, so he's trying to pick up points where Burkhardt cannot. Time to go racing in Mosport. Green flag back in the air. Race 2 of round 2 of 2025 season 1 for the FSS SMX Series, and the 77 gets turned around in the middle of the field in turn 1, and it's catastrophe for Hayden Menace. He's up and over the wall.
And I happen to be looking just at that, and I think that was that pink machine of Dylan Lee that just poked his nose to the inside and made contact with the 77.
Oh, we'll have to go back and look at that again a little later when things calm down, but that took out a number of cars. Murphy Nichols is out, Wozencroft, Soto, Manis, Burton. That was just a huge wreck, and that has thinned out the field quite a bit at the front.
Oh, we've got another car
That's
in
Lee.
the back. I think that's Dylan Lee again. Maybe picked up some suspension damage as a result of that contact earlier on and just trying to feel the car out a little bit more.
So Rice Budo takes the lead away from Hibbett. And so while things are still thinned out, let's have a look at this again. Maybe from high above will give us a good perspective. You saw was it Newell perhaps, or the 55? I think this is Newell on the inside, the pink car.
That was Newell, excuse me. It was Newell, not Lee.
Yep.
I hate to point the finger there, but that was a little bit overly aggressive for turn 1. Whoa, absolute calamity.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That was just, that space didn't really exist. And again, Murphy Nichols just gets collected, not of his own doing. Manis too, and look at that thing just get catapulted. That was wild. That was a gnarly impact. Same with Elliott Burton, just all victims there in that turn 1 collision.
Yeah, iRacing physics model on full display there. And gotta say, the way it dug into the ground, probably pretty realistic about what would happen.
Yeah, if you've ever seen the, what was that BMW crash at Mid-Ohio a number of years ago where it just dug in and cartwheeled like that? Anyway.
Or even Simon Pagenaud's crash from Mid-Ohio 2 years ago when he did the same thing at China Beach.
Yeah. You seen that they redid that corner, by the way?
I did, which I have mixed feelings.
Me too.
I get it, and it's good, and We need to avoid incidents like what happened to Pagano in particular, because that was one of the most gnarly crashes I've seen in my lifetime. But I don't want to lose the character of China Beach. It needs to be majorly punishing if you go off.
Yeah, I think the real quick on that off-topic subject, they changed the camber of the racetrack, which I felt like was an unnecessary step, as unnecessary step for Hans goes around off the side of a competitor there and goes for a spin. This has been a tough race for some of our front runners from race 1.
Yeah, it really has. And again, side-by-side contact there coming out of the exit of Moss. I didn't get a good enough look at it to really be able to apportion blame here necessarily. It's the 32 of Skip Brock Jr. I'd call that a racing deal. Yeah. Really and truly, you're coming too wide through the corner. I think for Hans, he definitely lost a little bit of grip courtesy of bounding over that curb on the right-hand side of the track, and that kind of thing happens.
Yeah, just I had the car unsettled, bounced over the curb into the side of the 32. It definitely penalized Hans more than it did anybody else, unfortunately. So we'll continue. 16 minutes to go, 2 laps complete. And Hibbett and Rice Pudo back up front, and Forster here as well. Now, Beans Forster, I know he lost the lead and ended up 3rd last time, but he's still picking up points left and right. Although the driver that he's really fighting, because Hibbett missed Sebring, is Rice Pudo. Rice Pudo is 2nd in the points coming into the night, was 5 points back. So if Rice Pudo finishes ahead of Forster here again, they're going to come out of here pretty much tied or a slight advantage to Nicholas. So this is really the car that Beans needs to beat to maintain his championship lead.
Yeah, and this is the question that you start to get into when you're behind the wheel of the car. You start to kind of think a little bit, okay, are we thinking championships or are we thinking race wins? If we see Forster really get aggressive here and start pushing ahead and throwing caution to the wind, clearly in it for race wins. If he's a little bit more calm and maybe just races Rice Pudo a little bit more aggressively, that's going to be a different conversation.
You know, it's so early in the season. This is only the 4th race in the 2nd round, but it's such an unforgiving season because everyone's so competitive that you really can't afford to throw away any races. You just hope that, you know, race wins will take care of everything else. Got some lap traffic to contend with as well, something we didn't have to deal with in race 1.
Yeah, getting out of the way there as they try to make their way around to town into the S's. Hibbett continues to lead from Rice Pudo. Forster, you see them all in a row coming out of that final corner, and that's the 77 up in front of them. That is Josh Soto. That is that lap traffic that you mentioned.
Yeah, such a shame for Soto. He's having such a good night, so he'll only get 1 decent race worth of points where he finished P5. Whoa, that was Manis off in a big way at turn 1. Comes back on track, but about to go from bad to worse.
Yeah, and Manis, I think, lost a lot of positions coming out of Moss on that last lap. It may have been a similar issue like we saw with Gilliland last time around, missing a gear, just not getting that shift exactly correct down the Mario Andretti straightaway, losing out. Cars off into the outside. My goodness gracious.
They've been really aggressive with the track limits tonight, and this is going to be contact. That's Andrew Gilliland taking advantage. Wasn't going to let Skip Brock Jr. make a mistake without him noticing. And that was aggressive, but Gilliland grabs 4th away.
That almost came to tears there on the entrance into Moss. Kudos both to Gilliland and Skip Brock Jr. Brock Jr. in particularly holding onto that car. Love the sportsmanship here from Soto. Getting out of the way, recognizing this isn't his fight, letting the leaders clear him. That is the sign of a sportsman.
It really is. And Beans pulling up alongside Rice Pudo now. This is a battle for 2nd. They have to be careful letting Hibbett get so far out ahead. We haven't seen anyone yet with this new formula for SMX be able to break the draft like we did with the previous car, but you don't want to give him the opportunity to. We know how good Camden is, and it doesn't look like he'll be able to. Beans had a really nice sector there and reeled him in a couple of tenths.
Yeah, reeled him in a couple of tenths here, and again, this is the waiting game. You just want to be in position. I would not be surprised if we see Beans be a little bit more passive, for lack of a better term, coming into that final lap. Whoa!
Wow, that was a huge tank slapper for Camden Hibbett, and we saw that end in a very bad way for a bunch of drivers in race 1. Wow, that you just got the left rear tire on the grass and almost wiped out.
Yeah, and what that is, that's that differential, just trying to get in and really lock in to create those rear tires to spin at different times, but it's just difference of traction in between that sort of astroturf and grass to the outside and the good grippy asphalt to the inside.
almost took out the leader. Can happen to anybody, folks. And it just also goes to show you, how unpredictable dropping a tire can be, and that's why it's so important to keep it on the black stuff, because, one lap you could put the tire off, and depending on exactly the corner weight that you have loaded on that tire, you might be fine one moment and take a bad hop the next and have your body work in the fence. So it's just not something you want to play too much with. We're starting to accordion back together at the front here. Rice Pudo sees an opportunity. He'll poke to the inside for second.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call there from Rice Pudo. Maybe even go for a 2-for-1 here, as now we're going to be Noah's Ark coming down into the corner as Andrew Gilliland wants a piece of it as well. Rice Pudo is going to be well positioned for the last run through whites. He's got it. 2 up, 2 down.
Wow, that was well-coordinated contact between Hibbett and Gilliland. They bounced off each other a couple of times. And now Skip Brock Jr. wants a spot from Beans Forster. This is getting aggressive a lot earlier than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, I'm going to recheck what I said earlier here. If you are Beans Forster, you can't be passive. You've got to attack now here at this point. You cannot be running in 4th or 5th coming into these last 10 minutes. On the last lap, you've got to be minimal 3rd.
Heard an engine go on somebody's car loudly in my left ear, and it was Bob Mueller Jr. That engine has expired. Early downshift will be an early end to his day. But you're right. I mean, Forster's got to fight for this. We saw a couple of drivers get buried early in race 1. It took them the entire race to earn their time back. Look how high his heart rate is, almost as the finishing heart rate of race 1 in P5 at the moment, knowing how important it is to earn these spots back.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He has got to get up on the wheel and be aggressive here at this point. Skip Brock Jr. right ahead of him. You can see him start to poke his nose to the inside. And look at this, going down the back straightaway, 140, 145. That heart rate up in the air on normally on the port of the track. You're calming yourself down and taking a breather.
Yeah, just a little bit towards the end. You finally give yourself a second to take a deep breath. But it's not going to be for very long, I imagine, because they're going to be right back in the thick of things here with Hibbett. Now, you do wonder if Hibbett or Gilliland have... Ooh, Rice Pudo missed the apex there at turn 10, opens the door.
It's going to open the door for Hibbett. The question is how much of his foot does he want to stick in it? The problem is now Gilliland thinking about trying to make a move on him. Nicely done there from Hibbett, defending that inside line, keeping up a little bit of pressure at the back of Rice Pudo. Rice Pudo giving him a lot of space here and defending that inside line. A little bit of contact farther back in the field.
Yeah, Skip Brock Jr. just took Gilliland by surprise. Gilliland was so focused out the windshield, he forgot to check the mirrors, and he's going to get bulldozed by a couple of drivers here. But they're out in the marbles. Can they sustain the grip? I don't think Skip Brock Jr.'s got it out there.
And I thought for a second there Beans Forster was going to be able to get a run, but marbles as well, and just checking that understeer coming through Quebec. Now they're going to slide down into here, and it looked like Rice Pudo was going to have a little bit of a run into Moss.
Yeah, and that's something that since this new iRacing build back in December, I've noticed be a much bigger deal, as I'm sure you've noticed, DJ, that the marbles are a huge, huge hindrance offline now. I remember the days that you could kind of rim ride turn 3 here at Mosport and snag a spot, but you can't do that anymore. And that was an old trick that the old dog tried, and it just did not work out.
Yeah, and that is credit to iRacing, the new debris modeling that they have done, not only the marbles that build up offline, but the dirt and debris that comes from running offline that you bring onto the track, that is now modeled to a much higher degree of realism.
Yeah, I think the grip levels got adjusted. Before it was really a visual thing. Now it really seems to affect the cars and the way that they drive in a much more, I wouldn't call it predictable, but realistic manner. You just have to be aware. I mean, if there's dirt and gravel on the racetrack, you don't want to drive over it. So,
it's realistically unpredictable in the way that it acts when it's on the track.
Exactly. And it's different every lap because it depends on who drove over it last time, right? Which I think is really, really neat. But 8.5 minutes to go. We're past halfway. And I'm really impressed by Gilliland here. He's had a couple bounces off of some cars here. But he's put himself, not only in race 1, but in race 2, into this 3rd spot. If he can stay here, I think he's a real threat to win this thing.
Well, we saw what Rice Pudo was able to do coming down into the final corners from 3rd position. Skip Brock Jr., I'm not going to count him out of this conversation as well. Beans Forster, That's where the question marks start to become. We know Beans has got the speed, but he has got to start moving forward if he wants a good position.
Yeah, I don't think you can win from 5th. You can win from 3rd. 4th, you got to be really good.
Yep.
2nd is certainly possible, and you're going to see Rice-Puto maybe give that a try here. Give us a preview of maybe what that last lap will look like. Pulls even with the 132 and might have momentum to clear him.
I think he's got the momentum to clear him here. Now, I'm not sure if that was a little bit of a lift from Camden Hibbett, kind of seeding. Well, no, he's not seeding that corner at all. Sends it in deep, coming through the right-hander. Now back into the S, is going to try to gather that back up underneath him. Now Hibbett gives up the corner, but look at this. Gilliland and Skip Brock Jr. side by side.
Yeah, it's not what Gilliland wants. He'd really like to be able to focus on these front two without the challenge of Skip Brock Jr. And then you see exactly what happens here. It opens the door for Beans Forster to go back to 3rd, 2 for 1. Beans is back in the picture.
Yeah, James Newell trying to be able to follow Beans into that opening, but not going to happen. Gilliland going to keep his notes to the inside, going down into Clayton. They're going to be side by side. Rice-Puto having a little bit of a line. Whoa, look at that for 3rd, a little bit of contact.
And Beans out to the rim, and he's back to 5th. It's just amazing. In 3 corners, he went 3rd to 5th to 3rd to 5th again.
It's a yo-yo. I mean, that's exactly what it is here at this point, coming back and forth and back and forth. It's really crazy to watch.
It has been, and it will continue to be. The logjam here from 2nd on back. Gilliland looks like he just kind of wants to bide his time here, but Brock and Forster aren't going to let him do that. So that's where I think the drama is going to start. It might not even be with the leaders. It's going to be P3 on back, I think, because that's really the position that you'd want to be in.
Yeah, that's the catbird seat. That's where you want to be. So I think you're right. I think the likes of Forster and Brock are going to try to push that ahead a little bit, push that issue. 6 minutes left to go, 3 wide.
Gilliland's going to go for it. What a huge send from the kid in the 91, and he takes the lead just like that, and they will not let that happen again, I promise you.
That's really surprising that he was able to pull that out. Very, very impressive run. Love to see that there. Gilliland now up into that top spot. And my question here for Camden Hibbett is if he wants to get a little more aggressive and push his way forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just caught him by surprise. I mean, it's an unexpected move to make with this long to go. On the last lap, you'd be anticipating that and would have covered it off. But because they didn't cover it, Gilliland saw the opportunity to advance. And now he's got only his rearview mirror to worry about. The problem I always concern myself with is, can you hit your marks when you got all this chaos going on?
Yeah, exactly. You've got to just kind of tune out that rearview mirror a little bit and keep yourself ahead.
Now, Gilliland and Hibbett feel like they're working together just a little bit, don't they?
Yeah, there may be a little bit of communication, a little bit of heads up. They know where that attack's coming from, and they know how to try to hold that off. I mean, I think they want to be in a position where it's just the two up front and that they feel comfortable with it. The problem is, well, there goes that competition, as you like to say, out the window.
Yeah, but Rice-Puto's going to go to the left, so we're going to be 3 wide again. And this is going to open the door wide open for someone like Skip Brock Jr. who's going to have a huge run because nobody's drafting up front. Gilliland tries to close the door. He's going to run the 32 into the grass, and he's going to throw himself into the fence in the process. Newell's off the road.
Yeah, that was contact between himself and Beans Forster as Beans tried to avoid that whole situation. Well, these folks wanted to have a little bit of a reduced fight. They've got it. Gilliland effectively out of the race.
Yeah, 4 drivers now out of the 6 or 7 that we had in that showing. It's going to be 3 laps left, and we'll show you that replay here in a moment. But I think the 91 just kept coming, hoping that they would back out, and they just didn't have to. So that was where that came from. I think they'll be calling for a steward on that. I'm not sure it'll require one, to be honest, but we will see.
All right, 3 minutes and 42 seconds left on the clock, and then there were 4. Hibbett, Rice-Puto, Forster, and Brock.
Yeah, let's go back again and see that this was Skip Brock. And as soon as I saw these cars 3 wide, I knew that there was going to be a slow going here. But Brock would argue that he had a fender in. But the 91 keeps coming and coming and coming. That's sort of a self-policing policy, I think, at that point. But we'll see how it gets ruled coming into next week. Simplifies the battle up front, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does. It's only 4 drivers, and now they're pretty spread out, so I don't think there's a real concern about anything going wrong here at this point.
How about Deacon Greenfield? Started 20th in this race, runs 5th. That's impressive. He's just carved his way forward delicately, and look at these 3 just packing it in there like sardines.
I mean, they're going for it. You'd love to see it. You'd love to see this kind of fight taking place. There's Beans down to the inside. Here they go.
And they're coming to 2 laps to go, so they know the game's on now. 163 BPM, like a hummingbird. Little contact there with Rice Pudo. These 2 have leaned on each other once already tonight.
All right, they're going to sort themselves out here. 2 laps to go. Beans with a little bit of a smile there coming down into turn 1. Let's see if they hold it out here at this point. Brock Jr., a little bit of a wide run. Rice Pudo following him on through. They come down into Clayton.
Hibbett's got a nice advantage, but is it too much? 0.3 of a second gets eaten up pretty quickly on this long back stretch. And there's even 0.3 back to Skip Brock. You'd think at a certain point that draft is ineffective, but it almost gives you a stronger pull when you build that run up the backstretch.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, this pull is just going to be playing into it. But again, it's going to come down to the launch off of Moss Corner here. A little bit of a wider run there for Camden Hibbett. I think that's going to cost him just a little bit of time. You saw him clobber those curbs on the exit on driver's left. Beans Forrester has a little bit more momentum coming down the straightaway.
Yeah, it's down to nothing now. So Hibbett's going to move left and allow Forrester to have the inside line. That was likely a pretty intentional maneuver. Skip Brock's got a head of steam here, though. Will Camden try to close the door? He will not. So here comes Skip Brock Jr. for second place, but boxed in.
Rice Pudo thought about a move there in the back as well, but not giving up the ghost is Camden Hibbett. He tried to send it on Beans Forrester. Ooh, narrowly not contact between Skip Brock Jr. and Camden Hibbett.
Yeah, that's really tight between these guys. Last lap this time through, white flag. 1 more lap to go in round 2, race 2 of 2025 season 1. Battle for first, battle for third.
All right, it looks like that's going to be advantage Rice Pudo. Thought maybe Brock was going to be able to carry a little bit more momentum, but it's not going to play out. Now Hibbett going to be holding on, trying to see if he can get a little bit of a run here. Again, I don't think Beans wants to be in the lead coming on to the Mario Andretti straightaway. That just doesn't seem like the place to be.
It seems like, though, Camden has chosen drivers left a number of times going into that last corner sequence. He seems like he feels much stronger on drivers left. I wonder if Beans has picked up on that and will give Camden the inside. Now, if he gets enough space to clear you, that doesn't work. You have to be alongside. But I would rather have drivers left seeing what Camden has done than protect to the right.
Right, the ever crucial exit from Moss Corner. Looks pretty equal there between Forrester and Hibbett. Now it's just going to all come down to the draft. We ride on board right now with Rice Pudo. Weaving begins, the dragon move down the back straightaway.
Yeah, here comes Hibbett to the left. I'm surprised Forrester let him do that. This is a position of strength for the 132. It's how he won the race last time. Rice Pudo's got a big head of steam. Where do they go into turn 8 here, DJ?
Oh, a little bit of a tap in the rear there for Rice Pudo. That unsettled Beans Forrester. They're nose to tail as they come into the last corners. I don't think Beans has got to run.
Nah, he doesn't have any place to go. He's going to try that last corner dive. I don't think he's going to get there. He's going to run it out to the dirt. Checkered flag. Camden Hibbett wins race 2. Forster, Rice Pudo, Skip Brock, Trace Hance, the rest of your top 5. Deacon Greenfield, 6th place after starting in 20th, and Spolman and Gaeta, the rest of your top 8. Court Schmidt from the tail of the field to 9th, if he can hang on with Les Chachik here in the 47.
And let's see here. Chachik on board right now. Oh, big clobbers to the curb there. That's going to run him out wide, but he's going to keep his foot in it to cross the line.
Yeah, nicely done there, Court. Top 10 for him. Joshua Clatterbuck and Jim Friedhofer. How about this battle for 13th place?
Love a little bit of side-by-side coming back into the corner. Here they go, the 89 going to try to hold that out. Maybe a little bit of side-to-side contact, banging mirrors.
Yeah, this is a nice clean fight, actually. They both kept it on the road. Little bit of banging doors to the checkers. Clatterbuck beats Friedhofer to the stripe by a 1/10.5 of a second. But Camden Hibbett tonight sweeps the event, first and first. And he'll be the only he'll be the first driver to do that this season because Rice-Budo and Forster traded wins back at Sebring. So that should put him in pretty good contention once he factors in the drops a little later in the season. As long as things keep going this route, Ibbott's going to be a factor as he always has.
Yeah, certainly is, and I really have to give Camden a lot of credit for that run. That was really heads-up positioning of the 132 on both races to put himself into position to be second, coming out of Moss Corner, take advantage of the draft, and get that position.
Yeah, job well done there by Camden Hibbott. We'll talk to him and some others here shortly. Let's have a look at our race results before we chat with a couple of those drivers. Again, maybe no surprise of the top three, but from fourth on back, some real nice surprises. Les Chachik, top 10, Court Schmidt, Andrew Gallardo, Seth Spolman, Trace Hance. Hance was up there all night, but Deacon Greenfield from 20th on the grid to 6th. That's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, that's a really good run there for all of them. As we move back down into looking at 11th on back, we start to get into some drivers that didn't have the best runs out there. Looking at the likes of James Newell, Joshua Soto, who was listed a lap down, Hayden Manis, Dylan Lee, Andrew Gilliland. These are all drivers that just found their way on the wrong side of incidents over the course of the running today.
Yeah, deal for Andrew Gilliland. I know he kind of put himself in a bad spot there, but he had such pace tonight. And there's a look down the order: Murphy Nichols, Elliot Burton, Andrew Wozencroft, Johnny Morrow, all kind of taken out in things that weren't of their own doing tonight, unfortunately. But let's have a chat with a couple of our front runners here tonight. Nicholas Rice-Budo comes home in third. Hey, Nicholas. P2 in race 1, P3 in race number 2. Job well done tonight. Got a little fierce out there, though. Take us through your night here at Mosport.
I'm a little frustrated, but I had a damaged car in the first race. Not sure how I pulled off P2. The seas just sort of parted for me. But race 2 just wasn't in the correct position on the last lap. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, this place is obviously pretty challenging to overtake just because you got, an opportunity at turn 8, but it's just challenging to stitch it all together. Have you learned anything about this car in this trim as opposed to the Spec Miata trim that we were running previously? How much different is it at this particular track?
At this particular track, the draft is definitely a lot stronger. The car is just better. It just drives so much better, and the tire drop-off is not there like it was in the previous spec. It was a lot of fun to race here, though.
Well, Nicholas Rice-Budo grabs a couple of podiums, and it's a good points night for you. No wins, though, Nicholas. We'll see you next time. Thanks for chatting.
See ya.
And Beans Forster tonight, P2 in race 2. This is the inverse of what Nicholas Rice-Budo had. Third in race 1, second in race 2. Beans, we always love having your biometrics on screen. 164 BPM max tonight. How intense was it out there?
Man, I got that old man heart beating. Every week there's always a little bit of a surprise somewhere. And with how race 1 first started, I thought that was gonna bleed over into race 2 and be the same thing, but it was the complete opposite. It was just dogfighting left and right all the way to the end, going from first down to 5th, back up to 3rd, back to 4th. It's just a crapshoot.
Well, every time we go to a super speedway on the NASCAR side, we call it a crapshoot here and there. We head to Daytona next week with the drafting with this car in this configuration. What did you learn that you can apply to Daytona next time out?
I'm not sure yet. I guess we'll find out next week.
Well, you heard it here from Beans. You'll have to tune in next week. Beans, couple of podiums, good points tonight. Thanks for chatting.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And Camden Hibbott sweeps the night in the number 132, first and first. Camden, I believe you missed Sebring, but you made up for it tonight with a couple of wins. They didn't come easy, though. That move in race 1 around the outside in turn 8, the commitment required to do that. How did you know the grip was going to be there? That was intense.
I had tried it a couple times between practice and earlier in the race. You really had to play around and figure out where the grip was, especially at a track like this. I don't know what the average speed is, but it is stupid fast. I think this has got to be one of the fastest tracks on average that we go to. So you really got to figure out where the grip is and where it isn't. And a lot of these high-speed corners, you got to be perfect to find the grip. So I was playing around with it there. Figured out that there was some grip around the outside and was able to pinch, I think it was beans on the inside. I was able to pinch beans off and just able to wrap it around. I think it's turn 8, the carousel, and come away with it. But yeah, not a bad debut for the FSS SMX Series. Just came off of a fresh weekend at Sebring in the real life SMX car, so I'm sure that didn't hurt anything. But yeah, it was an awesome race tonight. We had I really enjoy racing Miatas at this track. The draft makes for some really interesting racing, and it definitely created some action tonight.
Yeah, and we haven't yet seen you and Morgan Burkhardt race each other with this configuration, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Are you anticipating being at Daytona next week?
I will be at Daytona next week. I will be at the FSS race, so not real life Daytona.
That's what I meant, but I realized that would be confusing.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify. Yes, I'll be here next week. I don't know if Morgan will be here or not, but I am very much looking forward to the debut of the return of the Morgan Burkhardt Camden Hibbett battle. We already did the math, and I think we're gonna miss the same amount of races this year. So points should be equal throughout the season. We're gonna miss different races here and there, but I think by the end, I think we both missed 3. So no drops for either of us this year. It should make for an interesting season points-wise, and yeah, I can't wait for it. It's gonna be an absolute battle when he comes back, and we get a chance to go head-to-head once again.
Oh, I can't wait for it either, Camden. Good stuff tonight. Congratulations on your double win evening, and we'll see you hopefully again next week at Daytona.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, DJ, man, SMX, this stuff is good. We head to Daytona next week. So does the entire motorsports world. I think is it the 24 next weekend or the Roar? I can never keep up with it at this stage.
The Roar is next weekend. The 24 is the weekend following.
That's right. So we might not have Morgan next week, but either way, we learned a lot about these cars and how they draft. Sebring, we saw a little bit of it. I think we saw more of it here. What did you learn tonight watching these guys?
This is great racing across the board, and you can never really count out the draft of these Miatas, no matter where they are. And truthfully, the biggest thing is something we already knew, Kyle, and that is positioning is key. Coming down to Mario Andretti straightaway, figuring out where to be a couple of laps earlier, that's what's going to win you a race at Mosport.
And we'll see what wins you the race next week at Daytona. It's going to be draft, it's going to be craftiness, it's going to be luck when we head to the high banks at Daytona, the World Center of Racing. Big thanks again to Full Send Sims for the continued support, 3P Logistics and Final Turn Motorsports, who have been with us since the beginning, Wine Country Motorsports for their continued support, and Farah, newly on board as of last season. Really excited about their upcoming seasons and series. Check them out. Farah's Racing Series that has expanded nationwide for 2025. Kyle Heyer alongside DJ Clark. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching the FSS Esports SMX Series. We'll see you next week here at iRacing at Daytona.